Simcoe County Council will look and sound different next term. The province is cutting council in half from 32 members to 16, and the warden will be renamed the Simcoe County Chair, matching the regional chair titles used elsewhere in Ontario.
We are proposing to change the name of the warden. Now will be Simcoe County Chair, as we've been kind of included in with the regions. They have regional chairs, so the new position will be Simcoe County Chair. We're retiring the robe, we're retiring the hat. It'll be a new chain of office. This one has quite frankly run out of space anyway, so it'll be a new updated one. And we've changed the procedure bylaw. There'll be no more all rise when the warden or the chair comes in the room. We'll just start the meeting like many of you start your own meetings at home. One thing we did enshrine in the procedure bylaw that wasn't there before will be the national anthem.
The report didn't pass without debate. With the county moving to a single voting member per municipality, one councillor pushed to give alternates standing access to council materials, including confidential ones, so they would be ready to step in at any time. Staff pushed back, saying confidential material is already provided to alternates case by case, and blanket access wasn't something they could recommend.
If we were to look at the topic of alternate members being provided access to confidential material and sort of incorporating that into the procedure bylaw, we could come back to the next governance committee, but I likely don't see a scenario where staff will be recommending any sort of blanket access to confidential information. That
Council voted against giving the blanket access. Council also approved the next phase of an affordable housing project in Wasaga Beach. Staff presented two options. The council chose the larger, a six-story building with 155 units, mostly one-bedrooms, geared to seniors, with community space on the ground floor. Going bigger also cuts the cost per unit by about 10%. Construction could begin in 2028 if funding comes through.
Work that was done on phase one, as well as we've actually started and done some basic boreholes for phase two. So the good news about Wasaga Beach is it's, as we know, lots of sand, and actually the bearing capacity of the sand is very good. The only thing we do compete with in Wasaga Beach is a very high water table. So what we do there is, unfortunately, there is a bit of a dewatering cost. But again, it's fairly well known what we have to do there. And like I said, definitely no basement in this. It's fully slab on grade. And really the only thing below the ground essentially is the footings that can get wet later on in the elevator pits. So we call it bathtubing. So the elevator pits get completely waterproofed, and really that's the only thing that remains under the ground into the area of the water table. But bearing capacity, we have lots of capacity for.
The debate turned to how the space should be used. Some councillors questioned the large common areas and pushed for smaller units to house more people.
To make sure that people get housing and we get people off the streets and we help people have a better quality of life, that we can build more suites in a home and get more people into housing. I can tell you that if personally, if I was going to be homeless versus having a suite that maybe didn't have a bedroom, I'd be more than happy to take that suite. And of course, it's only going to be more affordable.
Staff answered that grant funding now requires amenity space and that anything below roughly 600 square feet fails the accessibility test for seniors aging in place. Behind the debate was a bigger warning. Staff reminded Council that new construction is only a small slice of the county's 10-year housing strategy. About 1,000 of the 20,000 households it aims to help.
Our 10-year strategy is not a development strategy. Development's only one small portion of the goals. For the 20,000 households we plan to help in the next 10 years, now 9 years, only around 1,000 are developed units. The rest go into income subsidies, rent subsidies, preventative applications, reutilizing our properties, infilling with modulars. So we do have a whole slew of approaches.
Following is the coverage of the county meeting.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Brian Smith, that the recommendation contained within the following governance committee report dated July 29th, 2026 be approved. Governance Committee meeting of July 29th and the Governance Committee meeting confidential of July 29th.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I'll highlight in the governance committee, I'm sure you've all read it, but we are proposing to change the name of the warden. Now will be Simcoe County Chair, as we've been kind of included in with the regions. They have regional chairs, so the new position will be Simcoe County Chair. We're retiring the robe, we're retiring the hat. It'll be a new chain of office. This one has, quite frankly, run out of space anyway, so it'll be a new updated one. And we've changed the procedure bylaw. There'll be no more all rise when the warden or the chair comes in the room. We'll just start the meeting like many of you start your own meetings at home. One thing we did enshrine in the procedure bylaw that wasn't there before will be the national anthem and the moment of quiet contemplation. So that's actually been put in. It was never there before, so we've actually put that in the procedure bylaw as part of our routine. I hate to lose the national anthem. Any other questions on governance? Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, and you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Warden Clarke. And I wanted to start by saying I appreciate the hard work of the committee and staff. No one wanted to be facing this difficult timeline we have to work with. As such, I'm just going to move right into outlining. I was hoping to make a minor amendment in regards to recommendation Gov 2626 in item 6.1 of the Governance Committee report. I would have liked to have provided this ahead of time for review with Clerk McGill, but got caught up with a much longer meeting yesterday than expected, and it included discussion on the matter. Clerk McGill has been helpful with calling with Clerk Amos on some inquiries I was going over with her in preparation for yesterday. So she had circulated those to me. So my amendment is based on an understanding I have that currently alternate members are only given access to materials when they are going to be attending a meeting. I'd like to propose that included with the procedural bylaw updates that you just mentioned, and they're outlined in Gov 2626, there be a required change to allow for alternates to be provided access to the Simcoe's agenda management software. If I understand it correctly, that would allow for alternates to be basically circulated with the same communications that the mayors will be next term. So essentially exactly the same as is done now for the mayor and the deputy mayor as county councillors. So no change next term to circulation numbers. Again, sorry for the lack of notice about this, Clerk McGill. I certainly will get your response, please, on it, and just summarize that my intent is to make sure an alternate doesn't have to go looking for a public agenda or can't view in-camera detail from a previous meeting, which I am thinking is the case right now. So I'd ask if I could, through you, Warden Clarke, if my understanding is correct, and if that amendment or motion, whatever it needed to be, could be done.
So what we would do, I believe, Jonathan, is pull that item, and then we'll pass the rest of the committee, and then come back to that one, if that's okay. If there's no, yeah. So is there any other questions on the rest of the governance? And then what we'll do is pull that item for a separate vote. So we will pass it with the exception of 6.1. If there's no other questions, can I have a mover and a, oh no, I guess we did have a mover and a seconder. So all in favor? Okay, that is carried. So now we'll put 6.1 on the floor, and I think, Jonathan, you captured some of that, did you, the motion? The concern I would have, Councillor, would be the confidential. You're getting confidential information for a meeting that you wouldn't be attending. But I certainly wouldn't have a problem with access, you know, even with emails and information that wasn't confidential. But I'll open it up to the floor. Councillor Cox, I saw you had your card up.
I may misunderstood or not heard Councillor Fryer, but we don't know that the deputy mayor will be the alternate. So it would just be, if we decided to do it, it would be the alternate, which I would think that the mayor would probably forward, or anyway, that was my one concern. I think it should state alternate. And I'm not sure about, I agree about the confidential, but I don't know. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Burkett. And then Councillor Corbell.
Thank you. Through your worship, anyone can access our agendas, and I have concerns with a member that may not be sitting, or the alternate not be sitting, as you do, your worship, with the confidential portion. The agenda goes out a week before, everyone can access it. So they can read it other than the confidential part. So I won't vote in favor of it.
Councillor Corbell.
Thank you, Warden. Just on that piece, as the alternate, we can't actually look and know what meetings they will actually be attending. So the information that comes to a member that sits at county council regular, I think it should be made available to them. And I'm going to frame this in a manner that maybe makes more sense. By not providing them the fulsome information for the meetings, including, I would suggest, confidential documents, it puts them at a bit of a disadvantage if at the next meeting, certain confidential documents are relied upon in order to determine, an additional discussion. They would be at, kind of a disadvantage. So maybe if they're not going to be given access to the actual confidential documents, there should be some mechanism in place that the regular member who does have access, you're leaving it up to them, I guess, to coordinate sharing those documents with their alternate. I kind of am of the mind that if they are alternates and sitting at county council, that really they should be provided the same information as the regular member, especially since there's going to be probably more times that the alternate will be attending than there has been in the past, because we've had two members sitting at council instead of one. So just kind of putting that out there with respect to them having appropriate access to information so that they can come to meetings and be prepared like we always try to be.
I do believe that's our practice now, though. If there's a confidential item or one hinging, we do, if we know an alternate's coming, we do get them the background information on a one-off basis for whatever issue that they've announced that they're going to attend for. Did that cover it, Jonathan? And any relative information we make sure they have when we're aware they're coming, but only for that one issue, right? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you. We deal with this all the time at our own municipalities. If a member doesn't make one of our meetings where there's an in-camera session, we don't go and brief them later on what was discussed. They missed that. And that does put them at a bit of a disadvantage if there's future council meetings that rely on that in-camera discussion. We don't go in camera again to rehash the stuff. It's the way it happens. So I can see Councillor Cabral point that it does put them at a bit of a disadvantage. But they've always had that disadvantage, and they have that at the local municipality as well if you're out of that loop. So if the county continues to link relevant in-camera documents to a future agenda item, then that disadvantage is negated largely, other than they wouldn't have heard the first round of debates that may have happened on that item. But the past is the past, and we're dealing with things as they land on our plates. So I don't feel that like in our we really haven't used our alternates that much. I guess just out of luck, good health, what have you. And I do feel bad that the alternates are largely out of the loop, which is why I was hopeful we would see them participating in committees and having more activity at county level. But when we get to discuss, I guess we aren't even probably going to discuss that one, but I can see the staff's rationale for not involving them greater, which is unfortunate. I think the alternates are always going to be at a bit of a disadvantage. It's just the way it happens.
Thank you. Councillor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, to Councillor Gordon's point, when talking about our own municipalities, there's 7 people, 7 voices, 7 decision makers at that table. And now with the reconfiguration of county, we only have one that represents our community. So I would agree with the amendment to the motion, and I agree as well with Councillor Cox's point that it should just be referenced as the alternate, the selected alternate versus a specific person or role, as ultimately that would be the decision of the mayor. But I feel like myself, if I'm chosen as the alternate, I'm going to be reading every agenda, reading every minute, reading every report, so that should I be called upon, I am ready to be an active voice at the table rather than just a token seat holder. Thank you.
Any other comments? I will just add to what Councillor Gordon was saying. I know at home when we have a highly sensitive matter, especially a court case or a personnel matter, it's a handout in our in-camera meetings and we turn it back in at the end of the meeting. So if you're not at that meeting, you don't get the handout, you don't see it because, you know, sometimes, as they say, leaky ships, and if it's highly sensitive, we make sure we gather that material up after a meeting. So Councillor Fryer, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Warden Clarke, and thank you to everybody for their input. I will just quickly clarify that when I made the mention about what currently is happening with councillors and deputy mayors getting circulated, and it would be the same in the next term, I was meaning alternate and mayor, and only in numbers. I wasn't referring to the position, so I can see the confusion I caused for Councillor Cox. And regarding the confidential, alternates take the oath. I don't see any particular reason why the information can't be shared in the same way. It just comes down to, I think the alternate position going forward in the new single voting member format, the alternate needs to be more engaged, and we should try to make sure that they can get information timely and as easily as the sitting member. So I appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, anything you want to add? And then I'll look for a seconder for your amendment.
Sure. Thank you, through you, Warden. So, you know, protecting confidentiality of council materials is of the utmost importance, obviously. As the Warden mentioned, our current practice is to make sure that an alternate attending in place of a member is fully informed of the items they might be encountering when attending a meeting. So we do disseminate confidential information to an alternate on a case-by-case basis. If we were to look at the topic of alternate members being provided access to confidential material and sort of incorporating that into the procedure bylaw, we could come back to the next governance committee, but I likely don't see a scenario where staff will be recommending any sort of blanket access to confidential information. That's one technical limitation we do have with our agenda management software. And so I don't foresee us changing our process in any way than what the current practice is of providing that alternate member confidential material on a case-by-case basis. And certainly if that alternate member has any questions, staff, senior management here at the county are happy to work with that member and make sure they're fully informed coming into the meeting.
Okay, so I'll look at the amendment. You'll move the amendment, Councillor? I would need a seconder for that amendment if we're going to table it. Councillor Snell, are you second? Yeah, so I do have a mover and a seconder. So if there's, go ahead. We'll get a clarification here from the clerk.
Thank you, through you, Warden. So as I understand, I'll look to maybe the Warden can look to the mover and seconder here. I have that the topic of alternate members being provided access to confidential material be referred to staff for potential inclusion in the working draft procedure bylaw.
Councillor Fryer. Yes, he just put the yes up. So happy with the motion. Any other comments on the motion? All in favor? Okay, all opposed? I believe that's defeated. I'm getting confirmation that that's defeated. Okay, thank you. If there's any other amendments, Councillor Measures, I see your hand up.
I think my hand went up because the software detected my raising of my hand. Sorry.
Oh. Okay, no worries. So then I'd look for the motion to receive. Do you have a motion for it, Jonathan?
Yeah, through you, Warden. So the motion from 6.1, the main motion there, it was moved by Councillor Measures and seconded by Councillor Evans at Governance Committee. So if that mover and seconder are okay still, 6.1 is now on the floor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Presentations and considerations of county officers' reports. I have none. No motions of which notice has been given. No notices of motion. And no closed session on the council agenda. So we would look to move into committee of the whole. So I'd like a mover. Moved by Councillor Michael Smith, second by Councillor Cox. The council recess into the committee of the whole at 9:21 a.m. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And roll call just very quickly, Jonathan. We can wait to see if our city reps are coming in.
Yep. Thank you, Warden. Through you, we're joined by the city reps now as part of Committee of the Whole. In addition to the members of council in attendance, we're joined by Aurelia Councillor Durnford, Aurelia Councillor Fallis, Aurelia Mayor McIsaac, and Barrie Councillor Nagusi. Barrie Mayor Nuttall and Barrie Councillor Rietma are currently absent. You have your quorum. Thank you, Warden.
Okay, thank you. And if I don't see your hand up, please just make some noise. I've only got 25 people on a screen at any given time, so we have to scroll through to find everybody. So with that, I would go to the approval of the agenda. Councillor Dolan, please.
Thank you, Warden. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Snell that the agenda for the August 11th, 2026 meeting of Committee of the Whole be approved.
Any questions on the agenda? And I'm not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council? Again, if you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. Presentations and delegations, we have none, but performance management, we'll start off with Councillor Chairman Evans. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Your Worship, and good morning, Council. Hope everybody's having a good summer. Just one item today under Archives, performance management with regards to Simcoe County Archives operations for Q2 of 2026. If anybody has any questions, I believe our Chief Archivist, Matthew Fells, is online as well. So any comments or questions, Councillors? Look at my next screen. Being none, can I have a mover, please? Moved by myself, pardon me, a little rusty, and seconded by...
Actually, you're chairing, sir, so you can't move.
Lux. Yes.
Yeah, you're chairing, Councillor Evans, so you can't move at this case.
No, I can't. I'm getting all confused here. So there we go. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Van Staveren, thank you very much, and Councillor Laux. A motion is that item CCW 2026-213, dated August 11th, 2026, regarding Simcoe County Archives operations in Q2 of 2026 be received. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. And Chair Measures, if you could take Human Services, please.
All right, thank you very much, Your Worship. Good morning, members of council and committee. Perhaps Mr. Chair, Mr. Warden, if you would be able to monitor for any hands coming up, because I don't think I can do that. I also have just 25 on my screen, so we'll make this a cooperative effort here as we get through the Human Services section. So again, we're at section 21, which is Human Services. We do have a two consent items on our agenda. The first one is a letter from the Township of Ramera regarding integrated living and participation for adults with developmental disabilities. If there's any questions on that, or the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Annual Report for 2025. Does anyone have any questions on those two items? All right. I'm not seeing any. Then I will look for, I'll ask for the mover to be Councillor Brian Smith and then Councillor Leduc, and that the following consent items having been given due consideration be received. If there's nothing further, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? I believe that carries. Thank you very much. Moving on in our agenda, we're now at 22, which is Human Services Community Housing. Now we do have a presentation here that GM Mina Fayez-Baguette would like to bring forward. So at this time, I'll turn the chair over to GM Fayez-Baguette. Mina, you there?
Thank you, Chair Members, and good morning, Council, and good morning. Yes, this is a presentation on Phase 2 development at Zoo Park in Wasaga Beach. And we're going to have our Program Supervisor for Housing Development, Michelle Hanlon, run through a presentation and be available for questions after. The report does request us to continue our planning stage and continue to get it to shovel ready while we still try to secure additional funding and explore additional opportunities for revenue that would help alleviate the cost of this development. So this is not the approval for the funding pocket in the full development progress. It's the approval to continue the planning stage and become shovel ready. So I'll hand it over to Rashad Hammer. Thank you.
Good morning, Committee of the Whole. Patrick, can you please go to the next slide? So the presentation is going to generally provide some of the background information to bring us to where we are today, give a description of the proposed project, outline the affordability of the proposed project, identify next steps and the estimated timing of this project, as well as outline a communication plan, and then be ready for questions from Council if there are any. Next slide, please. So as you may recall, County of Simcoe went out to our member municipalities, the call for proposal in 2024. The town of Wasaga Beach has submitted a proposal to Simcoe County for consideration, which included an additional parcel of town-owned land at the back end of 175 Zoo Park, which is currently owned by the Simcoe County Housing Corporation. But at the time, the town requested that that site be considered for an additional 100-unit building in addition to the existing 99-unit building on that property now. The 99 building was construction of phase 1, which was completed in about 2020. The proposed phase 2 of 175 Zoo Park is in alignment with the county's 10-year affordable housing and homelessness prevention strategy, and is in line with the prioritized housing table that was approved by the Simcoe County Housing Corporation last fall. And as well, implementing phase 2 on this property would be an opportunity to optimize the existing site, which has infrastructure on it already to potentially accommodate another building. Next slide, please. For Council's consideration, 2 options were designed for this additional parcel of land. Option 1 is comprised of a 4-story building with a total of 102 units. Most of them would be 1-bedroom units, a couple of 2-bedroom units, which may be used by a senior couple or a senior that requires some in-care, and then 2 guest suites that can also be used in emergency situations for those that need housing. The proposed mix of affordability ranges from 80 to 120% of the average market rent for that area. Mostly would be in the 80% AMR. As well, in the 4-story building is proposed a ground level community and social service administration space. And the design is proposed to be compatible with the existing building on that site. Next slide, please. As you can see in the illustration on this slide, the second building has been inlaid with the existing building on the site. with the additional land portion to what would be the right of the slide included in this. As you can see, the existing site has a lot of parking already, has some infrastructure on there that can be extended to the second building from Zoo Park, as well as the amenity areas. In total, option 1 would provide 191 residential and visitor parking spaces for a total of 201 affordable housing units. There would be sufficient parking spaces for the administration office portion and visitors, as well as many spaces for active transportation, bicycle and scooters, and the existing playground and raised garden beds would stay. Next slide, please. This is the sort of elevation and site analysis drawings that were created in support of option 1. They demonstrate that the height of the building would not cause any significant overshadowing or oversight into the neighboring lower density dwellings to the, that would be the south of this building. Next slide, please. Option 2 is essentially the same footprint with 2 extra stories on top. Those additional 2 stories would provide for 155 units, including 1 and 2 bedroom units, as well as 2 units for guests and emergency use. The balance would be the same as option 1. 80% would be 80% AMR, with the balance being 100 to 120% of the average market rent for that area. And as well, it would also have the ground level community and social administration space and would maximize the land parcel. So including some density and height as opposed to ground floor area. Next slide, please. Again, a similar illustration which shows the conceptual site plan with the 6-story building on it. A bit more parking, as you can note in this left of the top wing of the proposed phase 2 building. With both buildings on this site, it would be a total of 254 affordable units, sufficient parking space for residential visitor parking, as well as admin space, and bicycle and scooter spaces, and also the existing playground and raised garden beds would be maintained, and the existing walking path would be extended throughout the site. Next slide, please. Again, we have the site analysis and the elevations on this slide. Similarly, due to the existing topography of the existing residential neighborhood, there is sort of elevated landscaping that would separate the 2 residential uses. And when we put in the first phase of this development, we put in very large and mature coniferous trees. So those are well established and would block any potential oversight into the neighboring backyards. Next slide, please. The rendering of the proposed social and community office space for option 1. It's quite similar to the social and community service office space that was constructed in Bradford. But the same layout, staff there gave very positive feedback on that. And so we have tried to replicate that because we know it works well for them. Next slide. Here's some illustration of the proposed suite layouts for both options. The 1 bedroom is a similar layout to existing Simcoe County Housing Corporation builds, which is a bit different in this one would be the 2 bedroom corner unit with the existing layout of the emergency exits and fire separation. This layout provided an opportunity for some 2nd bedroom suites in the corner units of this building, which seemed to work out quite well in both designs. Below is a pie graph of the proposed unit layout, not layout, but mix, which you can see are mostly 1 bedroom, which is reflective of the demand and the regional demographic. Next slide, please. Both options would have a tenant common room with a direct access to the tenant laundry room. This feature has been included in recent Simcoe County Housing Corporation designs, and has also received positive feedback from the tenants that like to access both the common room and the laundry room at the same time, as well as the rooftop patio amenity area, which has been incorporated in the Aurelia and recent Bradford buildings, and has been quite favorable with the residents as well. The residential portion of this building would have a secure separate entrance from the proposed administration space. And also, which has also been well received in recent builds, is the community program room and community kitchens that can be made available to local agencies or clubs that wish to use that program space. Also included in both design options would be a secure indoor bike and scooter storage area and indoor garbage and recycling room. Next slide, please. As mentioned, both options provide an affordability mix of rent based on the average market rent. Included in this slide is the breakdown of the proposed number of units and the AMR that would be part of the operational pro forma for this building if it were to be approved. And then below is the table of the current average market rents for the town of Wasaga Beach area. Next slide, please. Next steps, an estimated timing. The report recommends that staff proceed with planning approvals and detailed design, and this would proceed through the rest of this fall. That would bring us in an opportunity to submit planning applications to the town of Wasaga Beach early next year. At the same time, staff are also recommending that a larger inventory of the regional housing properties be evaluated to determine if there's any financial options there to reinvest in existing buildings and or potentially include any redevelopment as part of this financial pro forma. And then if funding and the financial models are subsequently approved in a later report by council, then we would hopefully be able to go to construction in 2028, providing a 2-year construction timeline. Next slide, please. As with all Simcoe County Housing Corporation housing developments, there is a communication plan. Ongoing communication and updates occur with the tenants on the property and with the neighbors, as well as with the town of Wasaga Beach, to try to coordinate the planning application process, as well as the public consultation process. The county will host a community open house to share information with the neighbors and existing tenants, as well as dedicate a specific website to provide additional information and updates on the proposed phase 2 affordable housing project, and as well try to maintain clear communication with council, public, and the town, as well as stakeholders throughout the proposal. Next slide, please. That is a high-level overview of the proposed phase 2 development at 175 Sioux Park. Brad Spiewak is with me here today, the Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Development. If the committee has any questions, we are both here to take them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Rachel. And I want to acknowledge that Brad Spiewak is there with you. Brad has very good knowledge of our buildings. So committee, if you have any questions about this proposal and this recommendation, we'll take them now. Perhaps Mina Fayez-Baguette can also be available to answer any questions. So I'm looking across the room here and seeing if anybody has any questions about this exciting recommendation. And I see Councillor Leduc. Please go right ahead, James.
Thank you, Chair. And I only have one question. It's exciting to see this, and I appreciate that. And the buildings we do build are quality buildings. We referenced a couple of them in Orillia and Bradford, and they are exceptional builds. My question would be, and my concern would be, we have two options on the floor, a 4-story and a 6-story, and I know we got a building apparently on that site already. So, Mina, do we see any issues with the 6-story being that the foundational cost to put it from 4 to 6? Do we recognize any issues on that site that could be, land compression? Have we done any test holes to see if this is a viable option? I agree with using the property as best we can, building as much affordable housing as we can, but I just want to make sure that we're not getting into a position where the cost could really overrun the building overall to pick up an additional 50 suites, I think it is. So just questioning if we know anything about the ground for that area.
Good question. Go ahead, Mina.
Through you, Chair Measures. Thanks for the question, Councillor Duke. I'll ask Director Spiewak to speak to the structural foundation question. But generally speaking, for the purposes of this report, moving forward to just design phase, we are designing on the larger structure. And then the decision point of which option would be coming back to council regardless, but just to make sure that our permits get through, we're making sure that they're through at the larger size. But Director Spiewak can probably speak specifically to the foundation.
Yeah, through you, Chair Measures. Your microphone.
Yeah, your mic's working, Brad. Go right ahead.
Yeah, through you, Chair Measures. To Councillor Duke, we're getting an echo.
Yeah, it was working fine actually.
You're off. Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, through you, Chair Measures, to you, Councillor Duke. We actually do have full soils work that was done on phase 1, as well as we've actually started and done some basic boreholes for phase 2. So the good news about Wasaga Beach is it's, as we know, lots of sand, and actually the bearing capacity of the sand is very good. The only thing we do compete with in Wasaga Beach is a very high water table. So what we do there is, unfortunately, there is a bit of a dewatering cost. But again, it's fairly well known what we have to do there. And like I said, definitely no basement in this. It's fully slab on grade. And really the only thing below the ground essentially is the footings that can get wet later on in the elevator pits. So we call it bathtubing. So the elevator pits get completely waterproofed. And really that's the only thing that remains under the ground into the area of the water table. But bearing capacity, we have lots of capacity for.
Great news. Thank you very much for that. James, you good? Thank you. All right. Committee, I have Councillor Hamlin, Councillor Snell, and Councillor Cabral. Yvonne, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, we have so much space, I guess I should say first, I'm so impressed with the county buildings and these projects that are moving ahead. And my only question is all the common space that we're providing that I'm guessing we wouldn't normally see in apartment buildings. And what cost analysis is done on these compared to if we could put units in them? And I also recognizing there's long-term maintenance issues that we'll have to have staff to look after. I guess I'm speaking from the point where we just need so many units. And when I see a large common space, I just wonder, what the thinking is behind that as opposed to having units. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Mina, how about you kick that one off?
Through you, Chair Measures. So thank you for the question, Councillor Hamlin. So a couple things. Through the different iterations of grants and funding programs, actual community space or common space is required when we're developing these type of community buildings. Ironically, it used to be the opposite, where they would only fund you for the units and not the common space. But the different grant programs are now pointing towards trying to create more usable space that goes beyond just living, housing, amenity space. The other component to the common space is we are mixed income communities offering above average market rent rates for some of those units. So we do have to provide or deliver on a space that gives us a more viable viable financial structure, which requires us to give these amenities or include amenities as common rooms and meeting rooms and community rooms. And third, I think like the long history of our old community housing stock that lacks the space and room results in clients being isolated without services on site. All of these new builds are designed to have more and more services on site to try to support clients, especially those who are vulnerable or isolated or can't connect to family and friends and services. So those are kind of the thinking behind it. To answer the question about could you fit? I know in some of our builds we've designed, not particularly for this one because it's kind of like a bump out on the community, the social and community service space. But for sites where we take like first and second floors, they're still designed to be converted to units if there ever needed to be an opportunity to intensify or create more space, especially on the platforms like in different designs we've done in the past. But this was a bit unique because we are kind of like actually adding the space outside of the residential components. It's like a bump out, not necessarily cannibalizing space that could be used for units. And I don't know if Director Spiewak can maybe sprinkle in some more on that design piece, but that's generally the thinking that we've undertaken.
Yeah, thanks, Meehan, through you, Chair Measures. Yeah, certainly we have done dual designs. There really is a good example where the second floor, we actually put in all the plumbing in the windows and the HVAC that it could be configured either as units or commercial, depending on where the need was. The only other point I would add is that, and it goes back to the mixed income and also the financial model, the rental revenue from the commercial spaces is significant. In some cases, it's almost double what the rental revenue would be, residential rental revenue at affordable rents. So it is also significantly helping the performer of the building. So it does kind of go hand in hand with trying to make the building more sustainable, in addition to all those social elements that Mina's pointed out.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Hanlon, anything further?
I'll just say, thank you for that explanation. And, this isn't the meeting to delve into the details of this, but I can definitely see the need for a sit down just generally about these buildings and, how many units and, how can we deal with the common space? And, I know it's all money, but anyway, there's so many ways to get common space, especially when you have a large parking area and not compromise on the number of units. But anyway, for now, thank you so much. I totally understand.
Thank you very much for those questions. Good topic, and you're right. Perhaps something we can have a discussion with the committee later on. Thank you. Councillor Snell is next, then Cabral, then I have Brian Smith. Go ahead, Tanya.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just a couple of questions. First of all, I'm very much in favor of the recommendation, being, obviously very familiar with the property. Going higher is better in order to get that utilization. For the guest suites, are they studios or are they one bedrooms? If you could explain that first, please.
Mina, would you take that?
Through you, Chair Measures, I think Director Spiewak probably has a better position to answer the details on the guest suites as well.
Director, please.
Yeah, through you, Chair Measures, and thank you for the question, Councillor Snell. Yeah, they absolutely are studios, and the reason we do that is we also keep cots available. So if it was an emergency suite, there would be a fixed, usually double bed that's in there. But if it was a family that needed to come in for that night or two stay of a fire or a flood or all the various things that happen, we're able to roll out essentially cots for the children then. And that way it does keep a fairly flexible open floor plan for whatever family composition is needed.
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Just have a couple of others. On the proposed option 2, what is the square footage of each of the units? I didn't see that in the diagram, like from the one bedroom corner unit and 2-bedroom unit option. Please.
So through you, Chair, I would ask, I think Director Spiewak and Rochelle are just getting that for you, Councillor. they can probably share some details on a ballpark on the square footage of those type of units.
Yeah, you chair measures. Slight difference with the larger ones, but typically one bedrooms are all around 600. And 5 meters square. This building only has 2 bedrooms. We don't have 3s. They're typically around 900-ish. Give or plus or minus 50. Yeah.
My apologies, Director Speedway. I missed the first part of that. Perhaps my internet is lagging.
Yeah, no worries. Approximately 600 square feet is what we are for a 1-bedroom. And that's about as small as you can go to meet aging in place and accessibility, just given the various turn radii that are required. And then approximately 900 square feet for the 2 beds.
Okay. And I've brought this up before in regards to studios. And I'm hyper aware of this right now because I'm relocating my daughter in her student housing. And so we've been looking at apartments in Toronto, and the one that we've accepted is 350 square feet studio. It has a generous kitchen, lots of storage, lots of natural lighting, and a big open space that you can customize in many options. I just wonder why we're not looking at that in order to, Councillor Hamlin's point, get as many units in as possible to get more people housed.
Yeah, through you, Chair Measures. A lot of discussion has gone into the actual how small can the unit size go. So the thing to remember on this one, this was primarily a seniors building, and with aging in place, it gets very difficult. 500, 550 square feet, that's about as small as you can go to still meet all the, the reasonable clearances for wheelchair or mobility aids. The bathrooms get quite large, and we find often the kitchens are actually getting smaller, but the bathrooms are getting larger for the various requirements that are in there. So again, student housing going to be a little bit different. The mobility of them, for the most part should be better. But for a seniors building with aging in place, we can always look at making it a little bit smaller, but to get below about 550, it starts to get very difficult to meet all the accessibility code compliance that are required.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair Measures, I think you're muted.
Yeah, my microphone's been on again, off again. I don't know why it keeps coming on and off. But I'll tell you what, we'll go right to George, and we'll all have to try to pay attention because I think there's some internet problems here. Go ahead, George.
Thank you, Chair. And quickly, I guess for me, it's always trying to maximize the number of units that we can put in place. So my question would be, with respect to the 4 to 6, going from 4 to 6, does that provide any cost correlation as units being less the more you put in place? Because a lot of it, like the foundation, the elevators, the heat vac systems, they'll be sized to the overall building size, but those extra units, do they bring the cost per unit down for us? So in other words, the more that we can put into the building, does it actually reduce the cost per unit, considering that there are certain components to the structure that are going to be put in place anyway? So I guess that would be my question, because it's nice, as we're hearing right now, to put in as many units as we can, for the affordable housing for the seniors to do that. So that would be my question. Thank you.
Mina and Brad, which one wants to take that?
Through you, Chair Measures, the upcoming report should should give you kind of a breakdown of unit cost. There is generally it's almost an apples to apples comparison when you go from the original number, adding the 2 floors. I think you see a little bit more as it intensifies into like a much higher density, but I think, our financial analysis is that you do capture some savings, but it's not like something where it cuts the unit price in half or anything like that. I think if I recall correctly, and maybe Director Spiewak and the team could answer on this in specifics, I recall correctly the difference per unit cost was still within the same realm of like costing, maybe a difference of a few $100s per a few $1,000s per unit. But he can confirm a little bit more on the specifics. But it's not something where like it would, you know, make a massive change. Really the difference is the analysis we're doing here is in order to leverage other properties in and around the neighborhood that we own and maybe be able to garner additional revenue for this build, we would need additional units to be able to absorb any relocation of clients that, you know, are impacted by the other properties that we may want to use in a different way. That was kind of the thinking on the intensification. And of course, it's still, again, creating more affordable units per capita, like in the town of Wasaga Beach. Maybe Director Spiewak can speak a little bit to the numbers, but I do think, like, I remember seeing the comparators where it's slightly less. But maybe Director Spiewak can confirm that.
Director?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Cabral. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, though. It does go down. Everything you've identified. So you're taking those elevators. The elevators don't cost or cost very little more for the additional 2 floors, but you're spreading that cost over a bunch more units, you know, generators, HVAC equipment. The other bonus you do pick up is on material. So if you think of, you know, kitchens, toilets, bathroom vanities, you're increasing all those quantities. So often there's, you know, the buy in bulk and save, so to speak, kind of kicks in. So as Mina said, it's not a half rating, but certainly, you know, is it, you know, 10-ish%, but it does make a difference and it does help. Especially if you can keep the units the same, the more units you stack up identical above and below one another, and you keep those floor plans, we do see labor savings costs a little bit as well, because those same trades they know they're doing the same unit over and over and over again kind of thing. So we do see a bit of a labor pickup as well. And the construction schedule decrease, which again, time is money more than ever in construction. So that also comes into play in a favorable way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Final question I see is from Councillor Brian Smith. If there's any others, please indicate your hands. I see Councillor McDonald is next. Okay, so Brian, go right ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. So a couple of things have been asked and answered, but I think it's important just to add to it. And Councillor Hamlin brought up a really good point, I think, on the common area. And so when I look at this project, I look at the common area that's in the existing building that's here. It's quite large. I don't see it used as much as I'd like to see it whenever I'm around that building. I've hardly ever seen it other than for us maybe to meet in it. But I do know that they do get used. And so because this is a second building on the same property, I'm wondering if we couldn't share the common area in the first building, and which would allow us to get more units in here. And to Councillor Snell's part, I get the aging in place. I get that it's going to be more geared to seniors, but the real focus here, I think, at the end of the day for all of us is to make sure that people get housing and we get people off the streets and we help people have a better quality of life. So I really think it's important that, you know, we do sit down and have some discussion sooner rather than later. With respect to unit sizes and perhaps that we need to start really thinking about or installing more, suites that don't have bedrooms, that we can build more suites in a home and get more people into housing. I can tell you that if personally, if I was going to be homeless versus having a suite that maybe didn't have a bedroom, I'd be more than happy to take that suite. And of course, it's only going to be more affordable. How much, we don't know. That could be up to the experts. And, you know, let me be clear, I'm not condemning what we're doing here. I just think that we have a real dilemma here and a crisis, a pandemic or an epidemic, if you will, around homelessness. Every one of us are facing this in our communities more and more every day. And the more we can get folks we can get off the street and into, or even out of really poor housing conditions into a better housing condition, I think the better we are for what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So I think those were excellent points, and I think we really need to start looking at this. I'd like to see us start looking at this with this particular building and use it as an example. If we could share that common area and change that space even into suites. I don't know if that gets us 5, 7, 10 more units, but every house for a person that is going to be homeless makes a difference. It matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'd like to go to GM Mina Fayez Beguet, but I would comment that, again, we are receiving a report here about just moving this forward in the planning. And so this is an opportunity for us to consider the planning. So Mina, do you have any further comment to that?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Chair Measures and Councillor Smith. You're not wrong at all about trying to intensify and create more options for people. But I do want to just gently remind everyone, our 10-year strategy is not a development strategy. Development's only one small portion of the goals. For the 20,000 households we plan to help in the next 10 years, now 9 years, only around 1,000 are developed units. The rest go into income subsidies, rent subsidies, preventative applications, reutilizing our properties, infilling with modulars. So we do have a whole slew of approaches. When we're talking about mixed income communities, including Zoo Park 1, which was not originally designed that way, we need the amenity space in order to generate the revenue to balance the operating costs on the new buildings. However, that doesn't preclude us from introducing over 1,000 rent supplements for those who are experiencing homelessness to get housed in basement apartments and small units and in roommate scenarios and things like that. The purpose of this affordable housing development is one component of that larger continuum of housing that we discussed. This is why the seniors portfolio and what community housing from the last 30 or 40 years have taught us, inaccessible units causes zero movement on your wait list. People who are aging in place find themselves in hospital rooms or living in different types of inappropriate health-based systems because they don't have accessibility to return to. What I don't want to do is create for us small units that are not accessible that result in an aging population having zero affordability to live in with accessibility. So what we're trying to do here is balance those needs across the board. And our demographic tells us that still Wasaga Beach has a large aging population. And if you recall, most of our seniors buildings don't even have elevators. So we have people stuck in units inappropriately and unwilling to relocate because there's no options for them. But again, I just want to emphasize this isn't the solution. Like we're not going to develop our way out of the affordability crisis we're in. We're going to do it through a gauntlet of different options, and that's what the 10-year strategy is about. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the reminder there. Thank you. I have Councillor McDonald, and then I see Councillor Snell. You've got your hand again. So, Sandy, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Measures. I do agree with the option 2, and a lot of my questions have been answered by my questions have been proposed by my colleagues, and I thank you for that. And I know that we talk a lot about the common areas, how it helps if you're isolated, and it allows you to have fellowship in different areas. And I've seen it work in our seniors building that's in ESSA. But speaking of that, and I know it might be premature, but I would want to make sure that it was looked at. Going outside, and it has a thing about the parks or a playground, that we actually look at something that all adults can look at to be able to go out into a playground and use. We have adult equipment, and I know that being able to have everything all in your building, but having them not be able to go out. So some of them would not want to go out and stand in a playground or sit in a playground with just children, where if you have actual equipment that is out there that is geared for movement of all ages, I think that that's something that I would love to see put in place, because I think that everybody needs to go out and into the fresh air, but also that's another way of meeting someone so that you're not as isolated. So I just wanted to do that. But even though I know it's premature and we're talking about the building, I agree with everything that's been said about the building and how that we need to help those that suffer from mental health. And a lot of that is because you are isolated. So have them not isolated in the building and outside would be something that would work great for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sandy. Thank you very much, Sandy, for that. I don't think there's a specific question in there, but I appreciate the comment and we'll take that forward. Councillor Snell, I see you're back. Would you like to pose a small question there?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just reflecting on the conversation and I'm thinking about, and I don't want to be a stickler about the studio thing, but I'm thinking about retirement homes. You know, like a private retirement homes. And I used to work in the one here for when it first opened on Zoo Park. And the studios were the first to be snapped up because they were the most affordable. You could get in there for about $3,700 back then. And the one bedrooms were a struggle to fill because they didn't want to pay the extra money in order to have the bedroom. Obviously, those buildings are designed for aging in place. They're designed for accessibility, and they were small micro spaces. So how is it that is permitted, but for us, we can't consider that option?
I'm sure Mina has an answer for that, but my comment right away, Councillor Snell, would be that, you know, we're a government organization, so we have to provide accessibility. We absolutely do. So, Mina, what's your thought?
Through you, Chair Measures. So, Councillor Snell, a couple of different things that apply here. One, the legislation of you know, the different type of housing programs, like we're under a Residential Tenancy Act that has some certain standards and some certain obligations from the landlord. Also, our older supplier stock, whether it was like retirement homes is an example used, but our old community stock is grandfathered in to the different levels of the accessibility legislation that came over the different iterations over the years. So for us, like, again, there's a standard, and there's even a square foot standard on the grants we apply for, both federally and provincially. So we could create smaller units, but it doesn't necessarily help us on the operational cost and the capital cost of development if we're seeking support from other orders of government or other government programs. Again, we also have to look not just in terms of what we need today, but what our aging population will need, you know, 10, 15, and 20 years. And the last thing you want to do is go into a building that you just finished developing 10 years ago and try to start making it more accessible. So this is our one moment in time where we can get it right and we can adapt the units. That doesn't mean that larger size units couldn't be adapted in a different way. And I know some of our modular builds, like in Collingwood and things like that, we actually moved away from the same kind of footprint because of the modular construction and design. So again, we're trying different options for our different approaches. Our in-suites and our garden suites and our single-family homes are small size units that then you can intensify with infill opportunities there. So I just don't want to get hung up on the developments we're creating now and try to make it like squeeze as many people into a building. We will have social concerns if that happens. Intensification has to be done carefully, and it has to give enough space and room for people to be able to coexist, especially folks who are not used to living in a higher density building or development. So I think it is something all of us weigh, like as system service managers across the province. While you want to intensify, I think our approach to diversify how we intensify is probably the more responsible approach when it comes to balancing aging populations with people experiencing homelessness. And mind you, right now our population of people experiencing homelessness is also aging rapidly. So there is that component too. But we are doing things like we're actively working with retirement homes and subsidizing rent there rather than having to build smaller units ourselves. And we've done that maybe 3 years in a row now in Aurelia and in Barrie. So we have that as well available to us.
All right, thank you. Okay, seeing none, no further questions, I will look for the mover and seconder. Perhaps Councillor Snell, would you like to move this recommendation? Councillor Hamlin is the seconder. Would that be fine? Thank you. That item CCW 2026-139 dated August 11, 2026 regarding Zoo Park Phase 2 Affordable Housing Development Project be received. That staff proceed with required planning approvals and detailed design for option 2, a 155-unit mixed-income, mixed-use development to be permit-ready, and that staff continue coordinating with the town of Wasaga Beach for the transfer of lands to Simcoe County Housing Corporation and proceed with the appropriate planning approvals and detailed design of the Zoo Park Phase 2 Affordable Housing Development Project as generally outlined in item CCW 2026-139, and that the signing officers of the County of Simcoe and or the Simcoe County Housing Corporation, as appropriate, execute all required applications, agreements, and documents. Okay, thank you. Is there anything further? Anything further? Thank you. Then I'll call the motion. Council, all those in favor? And that seems to carry fully. Thank you very much. All right. Good discussion, and thank you again to Mina, to Brad, and to Rochelle for their work on this project. We'll certainly look forward to updates on it.
For Simcoe Community Media, I'm Deepak Bidwai. This story was supported by the Local Journalism Initiative.